Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Best of British Blackwell. This week we're going to be making something a little bit different but no less extraordinary. We're going to be making beef and cheese croquettes. A little bit of time and preparation involved in this. I'm going to be sous videing the beef. You can also use a slow cooker if you need to. But let's make a start because the first part of this recipe is to prepare that beef ready to make these beautiful crispy croquettes. So come over, take a look at our ingredients and let's get started with the first stage. Okay, so let's take a look at our key ingredient. What I've got here is some skirt steak. Now usually this is a very tough kind of meat. It's no good to fry off and have as a sandwich steak unless you really kind of beat it. You'll see it's very kind of sinewy, muscular texture there. It's very grainy. The key to this is to cook it a long time. Now if you don't know what a croquette is, what I'm talking about, it's almost, it looks a little bit like a fish cake, but it's kind of got, so sometimes it's made with potato, with a crispy panko breadcrumb around the outside. Sometimes it's got vegetable filling in it. This is going to have beef and cheese in it. So what I need to get this beef down to is the texture of almost pulled beef. Now, like I said earlier, you could put it in a slow cooker for a really long time, but what I tend to find with that is that all of the moisture comes out of the meat and ends up kind of sitting in a sauce around it. What I want is the moisture of the meat to stay inside the meat, and the best way to do that, I find, is to put it in a sous vide or water bath. So first things first, we're going to get a nice sharp knife, and we're just going to cut this down into slightly more kind of manageable sizes, just to help it out a little bit. If you leave it in a big piece like this, it's going to take an awful long time to cook down. Let's just do the same with this. So I'm cutting it into strips, as you can see, and I'm cutting it with the grain of the meat there. So let's get it straight into a bowl over here. I'll give my hands a quick wipe. Now I'm going to season it. Now what am I going to season it with? I've got a very basic steak seasoning in here. One ingredient first of all, first things first. To make sure our seasoning sticks, I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of olive oil in there, just to make sure that the seasoning sticks to it. Beautiful. So, I'm just going to use some really basic steak seasoning here. Light crumble of that. I'm going to use a little dash of ground cumin. Not too much of that, it's quite powerful. I've got some garlic granules as well. As you can see, I'm just doing this by eye really, I'm not trying to be too precise. Just going for flavour more than anything else. And then we'll get some salt in there. And because this is going to go in the sous vide, black pepper doesn't work, cracked black pepper doesn't work as well. Some nice ground pepper in there as well. What we're going to do is just get our hands inside here and make sure that all of this meat is completely covered. Give it a good turn in here. We want to make sure that every piece of meat has got some of that rub and seasoning on it. You can do that by grabbing it all together, lifting it up, and there's none left in the bottom of the bowl. That's perfect. Let's get this ready to go into a sous vide bag, and I'll show you how I'm going to set the water bath up. Okay, so we've got our vacuum packer here. We've also got our sous vide bag, which we've double sealed at the bottom, because we're going to be putting this in the water bath for quite a long time. Just take our meat straight inside the bag. We're going to get some butter. We'll just dump that into the bag as well. Perfect. Now we're ready to seal this bag up. We're going to double seal it as well. Again, I like to double seal these bags when they're going to go into the sous vide for a long time. And we're going to vacuum this. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to be using my Nova today. Hopefully you can see that I've got this set to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll start that off. Now this meat is going to go into this water bath now, once it reaches temperature, for 16 hours. A very long time. So it's pretty much all day and all night for me. So this will be ready for me tomorrow morning when I want to finish the rest of this recipe. So the next step really is let your water bath get up to temperature, whack it in there. I'll be keeping an eye on the temperature and the time on my phone using the Bluetooth on the Innova, or the Wi-Fi on the Innova, sorry. And we'll come back to this when this is cooked and ready, and I'll show you what we're looking for. Okay, so our skirt steak has been in the sous vide overnight. It's been in for about 16 hours. It's really cooked down. And as you can see, we've still got quite a bit of juice in there. So what I'm going to do here is snip this bag open and drain off these juices. That's lovely. I'm going to bring a bowl over here. I'm going to show you the meat that we are left with. Doesn't look too appetizing at the moment, I'll grant you that. But let's take a look at that. Now we're going to get a fork to this, and hopefully it will do exactly what we want it to, which is flake apart. Look at that. That is absolutely perfect. So hopefully you can see that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue to flake this meat apart down as small as I can to get it into these nice fine sinewy textures. Okay, so as you can see, it's taken me a little while, but I've gone through all of this meat and I've forked it all apart. It doesn't take too long, but it's taken a little while longer because I'm trying to get it into very small shreds, and you'll see why a little bit later on. What I'm going to do for now is just start to take some of this meat out of the bowl, get a nice sharp knife and chop it down even further. I would say that's about good. It's a little bit messy, but so what. Now look at the texture that we've got on this meat here. Very small, fine shreds. It smells beautiful, it really does. The seasoning that we put on in the sous vide, inside the sous vide bag, has really helped this meat take on that flavour. And there's a lot of moisture in there as well. Hopefully you can see that. This meat isn't dry at all. It's really quite wet, and that's beautiful as well. That's what we want. Let's get this back in the bowl. And then the next stage is we're going to be adding some ingredients into that bowl. Okay, so meat back in the bowl. What we're going to do now is add just a couple more ingredients to add to the flavour. We're going to get some Oyster Sauce in here. Adds a nice bit of acidity, a nice flavour dimension. We're also going to add some barbecue sauce, not too much. It's kind of a big, probably about a tablespoon and a half barbecue sauce. And we're also going to add some English mustard. That can be quite strong, so as you can see there, it's about 3/4 of a teaspoon of the English mustard. You can add more if you want. You can use whole grain mustard if you want as well. That's not a problem. And the last thing I'm going to do is grate some cheddar in here as well. I think that when we cook this, the cheddar is going to melt. Beef and cheese goes together really quite nicely in my book. So we're going to add quite a bit of this in here. That's good. And then I'm going to bring our forks back in and just stir all of this together. Okay, all of our ingredients mixed together quite nicely, as you can see. Next step for us is to prepare this to turn it into some croquettes, and the easiest way to do this is to get some cling film, put it on your board, and just get some handfuls of this beautiful meat mixture. Try and spread it quite thickly but also relatively evenly across the middle of the cling film. Don't go right up to the sides, leave yourself some room at the ends. This is about perfect actually. Just make sure it's as even as you can get it, and don't leave anything in the bowl, nothing to waste. Just try and get, as I said, an even amount all the way along here. You're going to create like a bit of a sausage. Beautiful. Once you've done that, just give my hands a quick rinse. want the cling film to stay nice and clean because it's going to go into the fridge. And then what we're going to do here is take our cling film and roll it. That's beautiful. It's coming along quite nicely. And I'll roll it across. So, earlier on you saw that we made our beef filling for this croquette, wrapped it all up in this cling film, and this has been in the fridge for the past couple of hours, and for the last 20 minutes or so I actually had it in the freezer. Now that's to make sure that this is nice and kind of well packed and tight together, ready for the next stage of this process, which is going to be to get it into some flour, which I've got here. I've just got a little bit of seasoned flour there in a bowl. I've also got some egg wash in there, which I'm going to be dipping this into before it then finally goes into some panko breadcrumbs. Now these panko breadcrumbs, I've just added a little bit of mixed herbs in there, and then the final ingredient to go into these panko breadcrumbs is a little sprinkle of Parmesan. I'll give that a mix in just a moment. But what we have to do first is get this beef mixture out of this cling film. It should be relatively easy to do. It's just a matter of unrolling all of this. There's a cut through the middle. Now this is when I hope that this kind of sausage that I've got here stays together when I start to cut it. Because what I want to be able to do is cut this into pieces and then kind of dip it and bread it in sections rather than in little pieces. So what I'm going to do is take a nice sharp knife here. Let's just cut the end off of this here. Don't want any waste really. Just want to cut the end off. Make it nice and square. Let's see what we can get here. Falling apart a little bit, but not too badly. So that's what I want. I want sections just like that. And I suppose you can squeeze some bits and pieces together there. So yeah, not too bad. Great, so we've got these perfect size croquettes here. They're very, very cold at the moment, which is exactly what you want. All I'm doing really is just passing these around just to make sure that all of the bits of beef stay intact. We don't want anything falling off when we start to dip these into the breadcrumb mixture. Just make sure they're a decent shape and keep their shape. Then, oh, a little bit falling off there, push that back in. Have to be quite gentle with them, you know, they're not completely solid. Let me grab my tea towel. So what we're going to do now is one by one get them into some flour. Like I said, I did season this. It's just plain flour with some salt and pepper. Let's give these breadcrumbs a quick turn over because I put some Parmesan in here as well. And then what we're going to do is go from, let's do it this way. So I've got a little plate here as well. So we're going to go from the flour into the egg mixture, making sure it's completely covered, into the breadcrumb mixture, again making sure these are completely coated. Okay, so we've got these beautiful beef croquettes ready now. As you can see, dipped, breadcrumbed. We've got a pan full of oil, so be very careful with this. It's going to be nice and hot, and all we're going to do is shallow fry these off. So as you place them into the oil, give them a little move around. You don't want them to stick to the bottom of the oil. You also don't want this oil you know, too hot. It needs to be warm, but you know, you don't want it bubbling over so that it's gonna burn these. They need to go a nice golden brown. Also, don't worry too much about them cooking all the way through. We know that the beef is cooked. What we need to do is we need to get these warm on the inside. They don't need to be absolutely roasting hot. There we go. They're moving around nicely. Look at that. Look at the colour that those breadcrumbs have taken on already. Okay, so we've given these a couple of turns, and as you can see, look at the beautiful golden brown colour that we're getting here. So these are ready to come out now. So I'm sticking them on a piece of greaseproof paper on an oven tray. That's where we're going to finish these off. They're not going to be completely cooked or completely hot through the middle, but that's the kind of colour and texture that we're looking for. So we get these in the oven on about 120, 130 degrees for about 10 or 15 minutes. Okay guys, so just while we're waiting for our beef croquettes to finish off, just want to make a little announcement. I'm up to just over 900 subscribers now, which is incredible for me really, considering I only really started this channel just for somewhere to put some of the recipes that I'd learned when I was a kid from my nan and so on online, so that I could show my kids. You know, I never really set out on this channel wanting to show people how to cook or give them the ideas that, you know, clearly I have. So the fact that 900 people have signed up to watch this channel means a great deal to me. For that reason, when I get to 1,000 subscribers, the 1,000th subscriber will get a special gift, a special present from me. So I just want to let you know that, you know, I'm eternally grateful to all of the subscribers that I've got. I'm grateful to all of the comments that I get, whether they're negative, whether they're positive. They are thankfully mostly positive. You know, just the fact that, you know, I'm interacting with people online is incredible really. So I just want to say a huge thank you to the 901 subscribers that I've already got. I look forward to welcoming many more subscribers, and I particularly look forward to welcoming my 1,000th subscriber. And I just want to say cheers, and we're very nearly ready to serve up. So cheers. Okay, so here we go. Here they come. Look at those, beautiful golden brown. As you saw earlier, they've been fried off in some oil, shallow fried in some oil. Just hear that, how crunchy they are. Beautiful. Let's put this to one side. Let's have a look at the inside of these. Look at that. Cheese and beef croquette. All that beef there falling out of this beautiful shell. Look at that. Let's see what this tastes like. Wow. All of the flavours that you would expect. Rich beef. Lots of texture, lots of bite. Beautiful breadcrumbs around the outside. Golden brown. Hint of cheese in there. You're also getting a little bit of barbecue sauce. You're getting a little hit of the mustard as well. I mean, if you guys don't like mustard, you could even put some caramelized onion in there or something like that. Pretty much anything that goes with beef goes with this. Some horseradish, anything like that. It takes a little bit of preparation. Takes a little bit of making. But if you can imagine, I mean, I've made these quite large, you know, they're the big size portions. If you made them a little bit smaller, they'd be a lovely little kind of like piece of party food to give out with Christmas coming up and so on. Guys, really worth giving these a go. Really taste great, they look great, everything about them's pretty decent. Give it a go at home. Thank you for watching.